Prince Andrew has long been known as one of the most controversial figures in the modern history of the British royal family, but a new explosive report has reignited public fascination with his dramatic fall from grace. According to recent claims circulating in the British press, the Duke of York allegedly broke down in tears and declared, "I'm the Queen's son," as he was pushed out of Royal Lodge, the sprawling Windsor estate he had called home for years. The image is striking. A once senior royal, accustomed to privilege and deference, suddenly confronted with the reality that his status could no longer shield him from consequences. And whether one views him with sympathy or frustration, the symbolism of that moment is impossible to ignore. To understand the weight of this reported outburst, you have to go back to who Prince Andrew is, not just a disgraced royal, but the third child and second son of an. Born into immense privilege, Andrew grew up in a very different royal era, one defined by rigid hierarchy, unquestioned authority, and a deeply ingrained belief in the permanence of monarchy. For decades, he was known as the Queen's favorite son, a naval officer who served in the Falklands War and later took on trade ambassador roles. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who believed his position in the royal pecking order was secure for life. Royal Lodge, located within the grounds of Windsor Great Park, became Andrew's sanctuary. After the death of the Queen Mother, Andrew signed a long-term lease on the 30-room property and invested heavily in renovations. The estate symbolized stability and status. Even after his divorce the two maintained a close relationship, and she continued to reside there. It wasn't just a house, it was a statement. It said, despite controversies, despite scrutiny, Prince Andrew remained a senior royal in everything but name. But that illusion began to unravel in 2019 following his disastrous interview where he attempted to defend himself against allegations connected to the late financier. The interview was widely criticized as tone-deaf and damaging. Public outrage surged. Within days, Andrew stepped back from public duties. Corporate patronages distanced themselves. Military titles were returned to the crown. It was one of the most dramatic collapses of royal reputation in living memory. When ascended the throne after Queen Elizabeth II's passing in 2022, a new era began, one focused on streamlining the monarchy and tightening financial oversight. Charles had long signaled that he believed in a slimmed-down royal family. Working royals would receive institutional support, those outside that circle would not. Andrew, already removed from official duties, found himself increasingly isolated within the firm. Reports began to surface that Charles was reluctant to continue financially supporting his brother at the same level. Security funding became a flashpoint. Maintenance costs for Royal Lodge were significant. Sources suggested that the king preferred Andrew to relocate to Frogmore Cottage, a smaller residence on the Windsor estate that had previously been occupied by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. To Andrew, such a move may have felt like a demotion, not just in square footage but in symbolism. And that brings us to the emotional core of the recent report. According to insiders quoted in British tabloids, Andrew reacted strongly when the reality of losing Royal Lodge set in. Allegedly tearful, he protested, "I'm the Queen's son." It's a line that cuts to the heart of the matter. For Andrew, his identity has always been intertwined with his mother's reign. His status, his security, his home, all of it flowed from being the child of a monarch who ruled for 70 years. But the monarchy he knew no longer exists. With the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the personal shield that may have once protected him disappeared. King Charles III is not just a brother, he is a sovereign managing a centuries-old institution under intense public scrutiny. Every decision is weighed not only for family impact but for public perception and constitutional stability. Critics argue that Andrew's reported reaction reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of modern monarchy. Being the Queen's son no longer carries the automatic authority it once did. Public funding comes with accountability. Royal residences are tied to official roles. And in an era of transparency, the British public expects consequences when reputations are damaged. Supporters, however, see a different picture, that of a man struggling with the loss of his mother, his role, and his place in a system that once revolved around him. Imagine spending your entire life within palace walls, only to find those doors slowly closing. Royal life can be insulated and rigid. When it shifts dramatically. The reported tears also underscore the human dimension of royal life. Behind the titles and estates are individuals shaped by tradition and expectation. Andrew grew up in a hierarchy where birth order defined destiny. While he was never heir to the throne, he was still a son of the sovereign, a status that once guaranteed prominence. Today, the center of gravity has moved firmly toward the direct line of succession, the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. For King Charles III, the challenge is balancing compassion with credibility. If he is perceived as overly indulgent toward his brother, it risks public backlash. If he is too harsh, it invites criticism about family loyalty. It's a delicate line, one that speaks to the broader evolution of the monarchy itself. Royal Lodge, in this saga, becomes more than bricks and mortar. It represents an era, the long Elizabethan age, when certain privileges seemed permanent. Andrew's reported declaration, "I'm the Queen's son," feels almost like a plea to preserve that world. But monarchies survive precisely because they adapt. Tradition matters, but survival matters more. Public reaction to the story has been swift and divided. Some see poetic justice, arguing that accountability has finally caught up with a prince long viewed as entitled. Others express discomfort at witnessing such a public unraveling of a once prominent royal figure. Social media debates reflect broader conversations about privilege, responsibility, and reform. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson has publicly expressed support for Andrew, emphasizing resilience and family unity. Though divorced, she has remained a steadfast ally. Their unconventional closeness continues to intrigue royal watchers. Ultimately, whether the reported outburst occurred exactly as described may matter less than what it represents. It captures a moment of transition, from one monarch to another, from one style of rule to a more pragmatic approach. The Queen's reign was defined by constancy and maternal steadiness. King Charles's reign is defined, at least so far, by recalibration. Prince Andrew's journey over the past several years has been one of contraction, fewer titles, fewer appearances, fewer privileges. Royal Lodge may be the latest chapter in that story. For a man once nicknamed Air Miles Andy, for his globe-trotting lifestyle, the shrinking of his world must feel profound. The British monarchy has endured abdications, scandals, and crises across centuries. Its survival has often depended on prioritizing the institution over the individual. In that context, Andrew's reported plea sounds almost tragic, a reminder that even princes can be overtaken by history. And as the House of Windsor moves forward under King Charles III, the message appears clear: birthright alone is no longer enough. Reputation, duty, and public trust carry greater weight than ever before. The gates of Royal Lodge may close or change hands, but the deeper shift is institutional, a monarchy reshaping itself for the modern age. For viewers watching this drama unfold, the story is about more than property disputes. It's about power, identity, legacy, and the emotional cost of change. Prince Andrew's reported tears, and that defiant line invoking his mother, encapsulate a painful truth. The era of Queen Elizabeth II has ended. And with it, the protections that once defined her son's royal life. Whether history ultimately views this as accountability, tragedy, or both, one thing is certain: the British royal family is entering a new chapter, and not everyone from the old one will retain their place in the spotlight.